this is going to be a little bit different style video today, but I want to go over this. This is an old router that my grandfather passed down to me back when I was a little guy, and this thing has sat, unfortunately, for the better part of almost 20 years in the case. And this is an original, this is a Sears Roebuck original model 315.17370 router. It's a monster. And the problem I ran into, well, it's my fault because it sat neglected for so long, but the problem that I ran into is unknowingly I had a router bit in it, and it uses this old school ferrule, which is just a bolt. You know, it's a typical nut and bolt type setup. Had a router bit in it. The problem is I went and plugged it in, and unknowingly the throttle, the trigger was stuck, and the thing just turned on and almost got away from me. It was pretty crazy. It scared the crap out of me. So I was gonna just donate it, take it to a local pawn shop, see what I could get for it, or donate it to somebody that wanted to use it. And then I got to thinking, I don't want to get rid of something that my grandfather passed down to me when I know I need to give it my best shot at fixing it. So without sparing you all the sappy details, here's the throttle cable. This old router actually uses a throttle cable, which is really cool. Most modern day, routers, or any power tool for that matter, just uses a typical rocker switch to turn on and off, or a typical trigger that's electrically operated. But this is pretty cool in that it actually uses a throttle cable like an old car would. So what ended up actually being wrong with this is actually part of an active trigger system on the handle, and this is the actual finger trigger right here. And really all this essentially does is acts like a throttle cable in your car. You can listen. It actually engages the switch inside the motor to turn it on from the handle. So all that had happened was this got stuck from sitting for 20 years and got seized up. So I just used a little 3-in-1 oil and let it kind of just soak down, not a lot, just a little bit, to kind of soak down the sheath of the throttle cable, and magically it works. So what I'm going to do is just demonstrate. You can hear it engaging and disengaging. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate and hold on to it just in case it's still stuck. What I mean. So here you can see that it's not turning, and for safety there's no bit in this thing. So I'm going to give it a good hold and try to get this all in frame, and I'll show you what I mean. When I pull on this cable, it's going to engage. Pretty cool. So now with a little bit of oil, I'm going to put everything back together, and this thing's going to be ready for service again. Check this out. Upon further investigation, I discovered something else is broken in here. This trigger mechanism, this little plastic on plastic crime here, the pivot point that the trigger rides on was actually broken inside the housing. This fell out when I took it apart. So now I have to fab up some sort of screw or some sort of pivot for the trigger to actually actuate the throttle cable. Here's where it had broken off right here. So I'm going to fix that first. Now that's fixed, but if I let go of this, the tension comes out of the trigger, and I can hear when I bring it back in, it actually engages the trigger. So that would mean if I powered it on right now, there's too much tension in this throttle cable and it's gonna turn on the router when I plug it in. So I have to use this adjustment down here, which is just like a throttle cable if you've ever worked on a throttle cable, and bring this down a bit to get some more slack in the actual throttle cable tensioner. Alright, check this out. This is cool. So the way this works is so simple. I took the cover off the top, as you just saw. And if you look right in here, all that whole throttle cable does is push this little button in and out. Just like that. So this works the same way that a stoplight switch would work. So if there's not a physical force pressing in on the switch and the switch is released, it'll run. You stop the switch with something, it'll turn off. So that's pretty awesome. So the basic mechanics are simple. So now it's just a matter of, like I just did, is I oiled up the throttle cable. That's what I'm gonna call this thing. The throttle cable here. And when this is depressed in on the trigger, if I can get this in frame. I don't know if you can see that or not, it's moving back and forth. So looks like full release on the trigger. It has a little knob that sticks out of here. When you pull in the trigger, it brings the knob inward instead of pushing it outward, and then obviously the contact switch turns on the motor. So oil is everywhere it needs to be. Now I'm just gonna put this back together, clean this up a little bit with a paintbrush. there you have it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. I know it's a little bit long. Most of my videos tend to be a little bit on the longer side. But here is my grandpa's old router. So he's up in heaven right now smiling down saying, proud of you, boy. Got that fixed. I think he'd be pretty pissed off if he found out that I put this in the garbage, especially since they don't make them like they used to. Made in the USA. This is an old original. So now it's plugged into the wall. Everything is clean and runs brand new. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll get you on the next one. Later.